Hey, it's Jackson here. It's been a while, and this is a bit of a different video than I'd usually make about a video game, but I've been watching a lot of achievement trophy hunting videos lately and have felt, I don't know, inspired, I guess. I've spoken about it in multiple places across the internet in the past to a bit of a, cheeky mockery, but I've always really enjoyed collecting all of the achievements in video games. Usually this has been on the Xbox, since everyone knows that Xbox achievements have always been superior to PlayStation and Steam achievements. But that's not super true anymore, at least in the case of trophies, since PlayStation has made pretty great progress in making their trophies as fun as Xbox's. Like, the satisfaction of popping them is pretty much the same now. That doesn't matter at all for this video. There's no way I was going to be playing Bethesda's hit new IP Starfield on console. I'm not clinically insane, and I wouldn't do that even for the achievements. This was going to be a PC game for me. So I was stuck with Steam achievements. And while they're not as satisfying to unlock as the console achievements, I was still determined to get all of them in Starfield before the month ended, so I could make a video about my experience in the first few weeks of its release. The game wasn't nearly as bad as I was expecting it to be. I was expecting it to be really bad, and while there were certain pain points that had a bit of a grind to it, it wasn't nearly as boring as, for example, Assassin's Creed Odyssey to 100%, which I have done, and that was pretty excruciating. I went into Starfield with low expectations, which was kind of a blessing since I really enjoyed the game at the end. I think going in with those low expectations kind of helped. It was super fun to get sucked into a new universe by Bethesda, and I think going out of my way to get all of the achievements kind of played a hand in seeing all of the different components that existed in the game. Like, I don't think I would have done nearly as much like outpost or shipbuilding stuff if I didn't have the achievement incentive to do it. Usually when going for all the achievements in a game, I'd look at the achievement list first and kind of make a general plan for how I'd hit it. But with Starfield, I decided to just go in blind and see if I could tick them all off in a single playthrough. So really my plan of attack for this one was just play the game normally until the credits roll and then knock over any miscellaneous trophies that I missed at the end. Trophies, achievements. I'm going to use the terms interchangeably in this video. You know what I mean, just the achievements, the Steam achievements. Straightforward and simple though, just play to the end, see the credits, and then knock everything else over. And yeah, it genuinely was pretty simple and straightforward looking back. Like, I didn't have to do any extra playthroughs or anything, or there were no missable achievements really. So pretty straightforward. I should point out that we're about, 3 weeks after launch, and this video is going to show every single achievement. So there will be spoilers. It's a long journey full of different things in this game. So if you want your journey into Starfield to be spoiler free, probably best that you watch this video after you've played it for yourself. So we start our adventure as a random miner who finds an ancient relic on a job. We make our character in typical Bethesda fashion. We're kind of let loose into a giant universe to explore, but not before meeting Barrett, who gives us a mission to follow up on, and not before launching off into space and netting the first achievement for all into the Starfield. So there's a bunch of story-related achievements in Starfield. I think it's like 22 out of 50 achievements are story-related across both the main story and the 4 factions, which we'll tackle eventually. But for now, Barrett's task leads us to New Atlantis and the group of space adventurers called Constellation, whom we join very quickly, getting the second achievement, One Small Step. And it was at this point that the game truly opens up in typical Bethesda fashion. Like, you kind of led down the path a little bit, and then they just open the world and you're able to do whatever you want. So it was at this point that I was like pulled in a bunch of different directions, and it was exciting. It was like that feeling you get the first time you play Skyrim. So I was kind of just taking it all in. First things first, I wanted to explore New Atlantis, Bethesda's take on a futuristic city, just to see what I could organically find. It was here I discovered the main government of New Atlantis, the United Colonies, and their, civilian defense force called the Vanguard. This is one of the 4 joinable factions in the game, and I knew that I'd need to do this eventually anyway for the faction achievements, so I spoke to Commander Tuala about joining the group, and he sent me off on a mission to find out what happened to an abandoned base on a different planet, and it was here that I discovered a person named Hadrian and a giant hulking beast called the Terramorph that had destroyed the settlement that Hadrian was hiding in. After I accidentally killed the Terramorph, I honestly don't know how I killed it. It kind of just walked off and died. I'm still not really quite sure. I returned to Commander Tuala to formally join the Vanguard, and he gave me the achievement Supera et Ultra and also Dust Off for reaching level 5. So 2 achievements for the price of 1 at the same time. I love that. That's great. That's good progress. We're already 4 in, and it had only been like an hour or so of game time. So it was great progress. I continued playing the game normally after this, doing some side quests and exploring when I had made enough credits to check out the ship customization game mechanic. So this mechanic lets you customize your ships and create entirely new ones out of, your old ones. And I was surprised at the depth here, actually. And I actually did have a lot of fun just making new ships throughout the game, which I didn't expect at all going in. I thought it sounded like a pretty tedious and boring game mechanic, but it's actually pretty in-depth and pretty fun. So I customized my ship for the first time anyway, and I got the Chief Engineer achievement for doing so. After exploring a bunch after that, I hit the main quest line again to chip away at some progress there. It was at this point that I rescued Barrett, who had gotten himself kidnapped at the start of the game. So I saved him from those pirates, brought him back to Constellation, where I grabbed the Traveler achievement at the same time for hitting level 10. And yeah, this was all going pretty smoothly, honestly. I was just getting achievements pretty simply just by playing the game. Wasn't really going out of my way at this point, and it was all coming organically, so I was having a good time. I was able to just invest myself into the story and world and all of that. So they were passing by super quickly, the achievements were. And this last achievement for hitting level 10 was nice because I was just knocking over these level-based achievements, which I thought were going to be a grind, and they were. There's 3 other level-based achievements that were definitely the grindiest aspects of the game coming up down the line. But these initial ones were super simple and super easy. My records indicate by this point I had been playing for about 10 hours, so I decided now is the time to find a home and settle down. Fortunately for me, settlements from Fallout return in Starfield, letting you build a base to unwind in and relax at. So I jetted off to a distant planet and made a quick base, earning myself an achievement called Home Sweet Home in the process. I will say though, I didn't enjoy the settlement building process very much in Starfield. Maybe it was mouse and keyboard that played a massive role in that, but the placement of things just did not feel good. But I made the base and got the achievement, and I pretty much left immediately. And I did not really interact with the settlement building process at all, if it wasn't for achievements. So I continued the main quest at this point. Again, exploring an ancient temple, getting space powers, which are basically the same as Skyrim Dragon Shouts, and then helping a fellow Constellation member steal another artifact from a city called Neon, which is like the bad boy drug den playground of the Starfield universe, but it's still pretty tame because it's Bethesda. It's a fun place to explore, but I feel like it could have been more. I knocked over 2 story-based achievements here, Into the Unknown and All That Money Can Buy, just by completing the respective quests. And it was at this point that I also naturally unlocked Stellar Cartography for visiting 20 different star systems. This is just general progression stuff. You're gonna go to 20 different star systems anyway. And it was at this point that you just explore a little bit and you get it. It's super easy. The main quest and the side quests and all of those things tend to take you to different places anyway. So this will pop pretty quickly in your playthrough. Once you complete the Neon missions, the campaign kind of goes into overdrive and some interesting stuff happens. So I really knuckled down on the main quests because honestly, I was just really interested to see what happens. Naturally, from knuckling down and doing the main quest line, I popped 3 more achievements in pretty quick succession with Further Into the Unknown, High Price to Pay, and In Their Footsteps. But after this final achievement, I decided to slow down a bit on the main quest line and instead knock over some of the miscellaneous and faction achievements instead, since I didn't know how the game would end if I continued down the main quest line, and I didn't want to lock myself out of achievements if that was possible. So I figured saving the end of the campaign for later would probably be the safest if I was aiming to do everything in a single playthrough. First on my list of additional achievements to get was to build 5 outposts on a planet and connect them all via cargo links to grab the Shipping Magnate achievement. This one was pretty confusing. It took me a while to figure out how to connect the outposts, but I eventually got it and I popped the achievement. Next, there was some more resource/outpost stuff. I needed to produce 500 resources from outposts for the Industrialist achievement. Again, this one was slightly confusing on how to set it up, but I placed down some miners over some resource nodes and connected them all to a storage crate and just waited basically, and eventually the achievement popped. After those achievements, I did some exploring and side questing again, and eventually, after quite a while of no achievements, and some questionable marksmanship here. I popped the achievement for hitting level 25 elite. So I was about a quarter of the way there and about 15 hours in at this point, just to give an idea of time investment. And I want to say everything that's happened so far happened within the first like 48 hours of the game launching as well. Yeah, I was going pretty hard during those first 2 days. Throughout the game, you have different companions like Barrett from before and other Constellation members. And I'd been taking Sarah Morgan, one of the companions, on all of my adventures since I knew there was an achievement for reaching a maximum relationship level with a companion. And I think she has like a skill that bolsters her affection, like how quickly that levels up. So I took her on everything. And it basically requires you to talk to them whenever they want to talk and be attentive like that, be a good friend. And so I was doing this so many times on the adventure that eventually a different achievement called Fixer popped up while I was in one of these conversations. And this one was an achievement for completing 30 different activities, which I guess talking to your companions counts when they have something that they want to talk to you about. So that's why it popped at this point. And after that, I stumbled across a call to action from the UC Sis staff to join the Crimson Fleet, who are basically space pirates. They wanted me to join them as a mole, and I liked the idea. So after chatting with the Crimson Fleet and joining up with them, I earned the Rook Meets King achievement. On my new pirate adventure, I completed the achievement called Cyber Jockey for bypassing 50 digital locks, which is basically this game's version of lockpicking. This achievement was super easy. I just picked every single lock I could find throughout the playthrough, basically. If there was a lock cabinet that I could see, I'd just pick it. And I knew that this achievement was here, so I was just kind of passively doing that throughout the playthrough. And it was also at this time that Sarah and I took our relationship to the next level. I guess we maxed our relationship stats and talked enough. So we got hitched on the planet Paradiso, surrounded by loved ones and friends. Not really. It was we didn't have anyone there. It was only her mum that showed up. So pretty small affair, really. But it did net me the Star-Crossed achievement, so it was worth it at the end of the day. There was a lengthy loyalty-esque mission before the wedding, and also, like I said, just a whole bunch of talking to her. But realistically, it was a super easy achievement as long as you know it's there. I would get this over as soon as you can, though, because it's probably a time commitment. If you play the game without taking companions with you on missions and you have to do it at the end, I feel like that would be very tedious. I think me taking Sarah on literally every single mission helped speed this one up just a massive amount. So along with the previous lockpicking achievement, I had also been opening every single computer terminal I could find on the adventure. So naturally the jacked in achievement popped at this time as well for accessing 50 computers. Another super simple passive achievement, pretty much as long as you are semi-thorough and remember to click through computers. I don't see how you could miss this one, basically, with how many computers there are in the game and how many computers are required to access for like different quest lines to complete, even in the main story. I just can't see people missing this one, even if they don't know that the achievement exists. By this point in my playthrough, I had completed a majority of the main quest line and most of the Crimson Fleet quest line as well. By the midpoint of the Crimson Fleet questline, I unlocked the best there is for completing a specific quest for that faction. All 4 factions in the game have 3 specific mission-based achievements. One for joining the faction, another for getting about halfway through the questline itself, and naturally another one for finishing it all. Due to the nature of the Crimson Fleet questline, and most quests honestly, having you kill human enemies, I also unlocked the Dark Matter achievement at this point for killing 300 humans. This Crimson Fleet quest journey culminated with me betraying my pirate brothers to the UC Sis staff, mostly because the Crimson Fleet dudes literally gave me like no reason at all to like them or trust them. And so I betrayed them and I earned the Legacy's End achievement for completing the quest line. You'd earn the achievement as well if you stayed loyal to them, but again, they gave me like no reason and I made just as much money by piecing out of there and blowing them up. And this lined up perfectly with apparently having completed 30 terminal or miscellaneous missions at the same time, netting me the Privateer achievement. So all in all, the Crimson Fleet questline was a very efficient time for me, with about 8 achievements earned from the start of it to the end of it. And after having completed the Crimson Fleet questline, I was feeling pretty patriotic, so I decided I'd continue my faction playthrough and finish the UC Vanguard questline that I began at the start of the playthrough, the one with the Terramorph. And honestly, this was a fantastic questline, probably my favorite out of any questline in the game. There were just a lot of fun characters, interesting locations that you hear about and then you visit, and over-the-top set pieces that didn't really exist in the other questlines. Like, I feel like a lot of effort went into this questline more so than the others, and it really made the questline stand out to me, so completing it wasn't much of a tall ask at all. And I pretty much blitzed through it all the way up until the halfway point, where I met an interesting character down in the basement of the UC Vanguard base, who was thought long dead at this point in the game, so it was a bit of a plot twist, and I earned the Devils You Know achievement in the process. Even though I was really getting into this questline by this point, I took a little break to knock over 2 achievements real quick. Soldier of Fortune, which required me to mod 50 weapons, which was super simple since you could just add and unadd the same mod on the same weapon constantly to rack up the amount. So here it is. And Replicator, which was to craft 100 items, which was also super simple since by this point in the game I had more than enough resources to just craft a bunch of different food items in the basement of Constellation at the cooking bench. So there that one is. Just 2 simple achievements, really quick to knock over at this point in the game. Now with those out of the way, it was back to completing the Vanguard faction questline, and after uncovering the sinister details of the Terramorph plot, spoiler, it was the dude in the basement all along, I grabbed the final Vanguard achievement for finishing the questline called A Legacy Forged. Like I said before, having completed all of the faction questlines, I think this one was probably my favorite and easily the best in the game. I highly recommend you guys not skip it, as it takes you to a bunch of different places and you basically stop Starfield 9/11, and that's just an incredible sentence. So you really can't afford to miss out on this one. I highly recommend it. After that achievement and playing as a good boy for the entire playthrough, I decided to dabble in some smuggling. For the achievement, I use them for smuggling. There's a mechanic in the game where you can smuggle contraband or illegal items into cities, but you have to pass an orbital scan from whatever organization is in control of the system. So you needed to add some shielded cargo bays onto your ship, load it with contraband, and just fly into a city basically, which is what I did, and here it pops right now. It was a super simple one at this point in the game because I was swimming in cash. I could afford to upgrade my ship like that, and it was super simple. So I had gotten all the bad boy stuff out of my system now, so I went back to the faction grind, and I decided to hit up the Freestar Rangers at this point. Joining them was easy since they had basically given me an open invitation when I stopped a bank heist earlier in the game, so I basically just rocked up to Aquila City and spoke to the deputy about joining them, and she gave me a mission to check on a woman's farm on some distant moon. And when I got there were some raiders that I cleared out, and then the achievement was mine, deputized. Super simple. The rest of the quest line went much the same, and it honestly wasn't my favorite quest line. The entire quest was basically about uncovering who was trying to steal the farms from the farmers, and I don't know, it just didn't connect with me. Maybe it was because I had just gone through the UC Vanguard questline and that was just so much better. But regardless, we get the Surgical Strike achievement for finding one of the ringleaders of the operation who has been hiding in a deserted mine. We get that achievement once we return to the Rock and talk to the hacker dude who's like compiling all of the evidence. And then we get the final achievement for the questline once we uncover who was really behind the plot. And again, spoiler alert, it was the dude from the basement before. Not really, but that would have been pretty cool. That would have been a pretty awesome twist if that guy had re-emerged and somehow been pulling the strings here as well. But it was another one of those types of reveals, you know, the plot twists where someone who was introduced earlier was the bad guy all along, that kind of thing. And, you know, it kind of loses its like impact when it had just happened before in a different quest line. So when it happens like that, like in close proximity to each other, it definitely loses a bit of its impact. But regardless, we get the Hammer Falls achievement from it. So now we had finished the Vanguard, Crimson Fleet, and Freestar Rangers faction quest lines, so we had only one more faction to complete, and that was Ryujin Industries, which is basically a corporate espionage themed adventure. that honestly kind of felt like tonally weird for the game and was probably my least favorite of the faction quests. Regardless, I joined up with them easily the same way I joined the other groups, which is like you talk to a representative of the faction, do a quasi job interview, and then get given a small task, and then that's it really. The achievement's yours at that point. And that was back to the grind for this one, and it went pretty much exactly like that. The other two faction quests for Ryujin though, not so much. They were very stealth orientated, and I just wasn't enjoying the storyline or gameplay very much at all. Regardless, I knocked them over with a mid-quest line achievement called Guilty Parties Popping Eventually, when I uncovered someone that I had met earlier in the quest line had betrayed us. What the fuck? Not again. How can I trust anyone? Pretty repetitive at this point, but at least it made sense in a corpo/cyberpunk style environment, I guess. So mainlining 3 different faction quest lines back to back had taken a bit of a toll on me. It would have been like, I don't quite know, probably close to 10 hours of doing that. So before finishing the Ryujin quest line, I decided to take a bit of a break and instead endlessly run across a planet collecting materials for a few achievements I need in the future that I expected to be a bit of a grind down the line. So I thought I'd get a bit of a head start now. Along my run, I also killed every single animal I could find, eventually grabbing the Another Bug Hunt achievement for killing 300 creatures. You don't really kill a lot of creatures during the main quest line or even the faction quest lines. They're usually killed just by exploring. So while the killing 300 humans achievement popped pretty quickly during the quest lines, I had to specifically run across a planet just killing creatures for this achievement. Sadly, even with this 30-minute detour, I think it was, I didn't get the achievements I was actually hunting for, and I really didn't make much progress there either. But we'll come back to those down the line and get them then. Now with that little break taken care of, it was time to get back to the Ryujin questline, where I rooted out the mole who was stealing corporate secrets. I stole some advanced tech from a rival company myself in what was perhaps the most annoying mission in the entire game. I just had to restart it so many different times due to just wonky AI pathfinding and detection, even though I probably could have just like, I don't know, done it non-stealth. I don't know why I committed to the stealth option, honestly, but I did. And so I restarted every time. And it was really difficult because the AI would just bug out and just stare at like doors where I would need to exit through. It was very annoying. So I did that, then I returned to the headquarters to convince the board of directors of Ryujin to vote in a particular way. Just did all the standard quest stuff, really. Again, I just wasn't really feeling this quest line. It was something about how out of place it felt to the rest of the game and how trivial the storyline felt in comparison to the others. But regardless, I got the executive level achievement and I said goodbye to Ryujin Industries forever after that. And with that, all of the faction quests were done. So I had only one major quest line left, and that was, of course, the main quest line. There are only a few missions left in the main story at this point, so I knocked them over in a couple of hours, getting entangled and unearthed at the same time for completing the second to last mission. And then I was left with the final mission. I've avoided talking too much in depth about the main story until now, but through the main game, you discover that the artifacts you've been searching for are some kind of guide to the center of the universe, I think, where if you collect all the artifacts, you can be reborn as something called a Starborn, which, to be honest, I have no clue what that means or entails. Someone more interested in the lore itself can go into that. But I don't know, I think it has something to do with time travel or traveling to different universes or different timelines. I don't know for sure. It was all like very esoteric and undefined sci-fi stuff, pretty typical stuff, but like, I don't know, it was pretty standard stuff. After a certain point in the main campaign though, other Starborn hunt you down and try to stop you from collecting the artifacts since they want the artifacts for themselves, I think. I don't know. Regardless, you get an achievement called War of Angels for killing 20 of them, which actually popped during the final mission for me. Otherwise, they're generally found randomly throughout the universe or waiting at the end of temples that grant you powers. By the time I hit the final mission, I think I had killed 17 of them just passively, so it wasn't too much of a grind. I only needed to kill 3 more of them in that campaign mission, that final mission, and there were like 20 of them, so you could probably not kill Starborn throughout the entire game and still get that achievement in that final mission. Regardless, I got it, War of Angels popped. and then I went on to complete the main campaign, killed the main antagonist, collected all of the artifacts, and I became Starborn as well or something, netting me the One Giant Leap achievement for completing the main quest line. This basically puts you into New Game Plus, where you start from scratch just with your skills and current level. And apparently there's substantial changes in New Game Plus to the storyline and quests. Like if you redo them, you get new dialogues and situations, I think. Not that I saw any of them, so I don't know for sure, because I just reloaded a save right before the final choice to go and finish all the other achievements I had left. So technically still all in one playthrough. So I still had 9 achievements left to complete at this point. So just by doing the main campaign and faction missions, you can easily complete about 41 of the 50 achievements, I'd say. And the rest are also easy to get, but you do have to do a bit of additional grinding for most of the rest. The first post-game achievement I chose to go after was The Family You Choose, which required me to recruit 10 separate companions. With the amount of money I had, this was trivial. I just went to Viewport on New Atlantis and recruited everyone with a name, basically. I think they have to be ones with names. I don't think the ones that are just like weapons specialist work. So I recruited everyone with a name, and I already had about 6 or 7 companions by the point I was out of the story just by doing main quest line and stuff like that. So I only needed to recruit like 4 people, and that was super easy. So I did that, and the achievement popped. After that, I unlocked the Thirst for Knowledge achievement by finding the final skill magazines I needed. You need 20 of them, again, and these are basically the skill books that are hidden around the game world that permanently boost specific attributes or stats for the character. I wasn't even looking that hard during the main campaign, and I found 18 passively just by, being slightly observant during the main quest line. So I only needed to grab 2 more, and I found 2 more in Aquila City, just in a few houses. So after that, the achievement was mine. And then we come to the real grind. This is where the actual grind started. The only grind in the game, I would say. I think these last achievements probably totaled an extra 5 hours of game time. Honestly, not much in consideration of like the total game length, but since you're just doing the same thing over and over again for 5 hours, it does feel like a bit of a grind for sure. The first one I knocked over was The Stars My Destination, which required me visiting every single star system. This one was just pretty annoying, honestly. Every single star system had to be visited, and it was kind of hard to tell which ones had been visited before at a glance. Initially, I thought it was the systems with the red stars that I hadn't visited yet, but no, those ones meant that I couldn't visit them because a star before them hadn't been visited or something like that. Like it was impossible to go to the red stars yet because I needed to go somewhere else. It was very annoying. Regardless, with a good enough grab drive and enough determination, I got through them all in around 50 minutes of just clicking around. There was a moment at the very end where I thought the achievement bugged or glitched out because everything was white. Like every star system was glowing white, and like it appeared that I had been to them all, and I couldn't figure out which one I hadn't been to. So I searched around the star map for I want to say 5 minutes, just inspecting every single star, trying to figure out which one I hadn't been to. And then I found it. It was a very tiny speck, probably the tiniest star possible on the map. Basically impossible to see with the naked eye. But I found it, and I jumped there, and then the achievement popped. The next 2 achievements were extremely painful, and they were the ones that I had started before earlier in the playthrough on my 30-minute detour after the faction quests. They were Rock Collection and Life Begets Life, both requiring me to collect 500 inorganic and 500 organic resources respectively. This was super time consuming, and it basically meant I was running across planets endlessly, just foraging plants and mining rocks for a few hours, probably 3 hours I want to say all up. I watched a bunch of YouTube videos on the side while I was doing it. I think I had about 250 inorganic and about 80 organic materials gathered by the end of the main playthrough, and that was somewhat actively gathering during the game, like I said before. So I think it's always going to be some of the final achievements most people get, and the percentage of people who have the achievement 3 weeks after launch now is probably the lowest out of any of them. So that does track. I don't know if there's a quicker way of doing it than just walking across, killing animals and collecting their hides, or or collecting the plants, just running across the planet, collecting plants and mining rocks. I don't know. A quick tip for this one, though, which I found, was to invest skill points into both botany and geology, as harvesting is more efficient if you dump points into them, so you can get additional resources each time you collect from a node. I found that pretty helpful. But regardless, I put in the time, I collected all the resources, and then rock collection popped first. And it was followed by life begets life eventually, like so. The next achievement, Boots on the Ground, required me to land on 100 different planets. And yeah, much like the stars, my destination achievement for visiting all of the star systems, this was another pretty repetitive one where I just grav jumped to a whole bunch of different planets and different star systems, landed on them, and did that ad nauseum until I hit the 100 mark. I think I ended my core playthrough with about 60 planets landed on, so this solid chunk of time right here, which was about an hour I think, was spent just landing on 40 different planets in different star systems. Most of that time was just loading screens and traveling, basically. But I got it done, and here the achievement popped. So now I only had 3 achievements left. I was around level 46 by this point, and the only 2 concerning achievements I had left were the level-based ones. One for hitting level 50, and the other for hitting a whopping level 100. I was concerned about that one because I had been playing for about 75 hours by this point, and I was only level 46. So I really did not want to be playing for another 75 hours to get to level 100, or even longer, considering I had less things to do now, and also each level required more XP, obviously. Luckily for me, there's a super quick way of getting to level 100, and it's through outpost crafting. If you have Planetary Habitation 3, which is a skill in the game, you can create outposts on usually extremely hazardous planets. So the strategy here was basically to set up a nickel and cobalt mine on Venus, where 1 hour of local time is the same as 100 hours of universal time. So what this means is I could place a bunch of storage crates and miners and sleep just a couple of hours, and all of those crates would be full of resources for me to craft with. So I would just go to bed, wake up, grab all of the resources from the crafting screen, and just craft ISO-centered magnets endlessly, and then go back to sleep for another 2 hours to refill the crates. It was pretty simple but very tedious, and still took around probably 2 hours to get from level 44 to 100 just by crafting those. But I do think it's probably the quickest way of leveling up in the game. But one by one, the achievements did pop. I hit level 50 pretty quickly because I was only level 46, and I got the Space Opera achievement. And then a couple of hours later, this is where most of the time went, I eventually hit level 100 and got the Reach for the Stars achievement. And then we come to the final achievement. I don't know why I saved this one for last. It's not like it didn't jump out at me. I think I just forgot about it, really. I don't think it was intentional, definitely. I think I was planning on saving the level 100 achievement for last, but I just forgot about this one. It is a relatively simple achievement, but it somehow did end up being pretty annoying for some reason. The achievement requires you to have 10 different ships. By the very end of the game, I had around 7 in my ship list that I had either bought or been given as a quest reward, so I really only needed 3 more. And for some reason, these 3 were extremely difficult to find. I basically had to wander around the moon, like Earth's moon, for an hour or so just waiting for ships to land before I broke into them and stole them. There were multiple times, and I've got this on footage, where a ship would land and I'd spend a few minutes running towards it desperately before it just shot off back out into space as soon as I got close. It sucked. It was very annoying. I think it was really the only option I had as well, because by this point I had no credits. I had dumped all of my money into my XP farm on Venus, so I had no money. I couldn't just buy ships. I had to steal them, and I couldn't find anywhere else to really steal ships. Like, if I tried to steal ships in orbit, I would just blow them up accidentally because my ship itself was so powerful. And then I couldn't steal parked ships because they were inaccessible for some reason, like in cities and stuff. So just randomly stumbling across ships out in the open world seemed like the only way that I was going to be able to get this achievement. To make matters even worse, I had sold a bunch of ships. I had for credits earlier in the game. And if I had known that I would need this achievement eventually, if I would need those ships, I definitely wouldn't have sold them. That was my biggest regret in the game, probably. I sold probably about 5 ships in my list of ships. And if I had just held on to them throughout the mid game and towards the late game, then I would have got the achievement way before this final stretch of achievements. But regardless, after roaming the moon for a bit and breaking into any ship that I could find, basically, I earned the Fleet Commander achievement. So there we go. That was 80 hours and every single achievement in Starfield. It felt pretty great, honestly, to 100% a Bethesda game within the first month of launch. Like, this video is coming out kind of late. I had this done about 2 weeks ago. I think I finished on the 19th of September. Around then, I'll have to double check and put it on screen right now. But yeah, I finished this probably like 2.5 weeks after the game came out. So honestly, I'm pretty proud of that one. That's a big gamer win that right there for me anyway. I've never 100%ed any Bethesda game, I don't think. Skyrim I got pretty close to, but then lost interest. I think towards the 50-hour mark, I probably would have lost interest if I didn't specifically set myself the goal of 100%ing this game. It's a good game, don't get me wrong. I really did enjoy it more than I thought I would. It's just like any open world game where burnout does eventually start creeping in and stuff does start to get monotonous. But I enjoyed my time overall with Starfield, definitely. I do have some gripes with the game, and I've talked about it in some places like Twitter, but like the raw amount of loading screens during the game were very annoying. But beyond that, I did enjoy my time with Starfield, and I think it's a very promising IP for Bethesda going forward. I also don't think it felt nearly as grindy or tedious as Skyrim in the achievement hunt. I do remember there being some pretty annoying ones in Skyrim. Maybe I'm wrong. It's been a while, but I do remember being like, wow, this achievement list is extensive. And that might be because there were a bunch of expansions by the time I finally got around to trying to get achievements in Skyrim a few years back, but still, it did feel more daunting than this one. But yeah, the Starfield achievement 100% journey is just very breezy. Difficulty-wise, I'd give it about a 2 out of 10, but I would give it a 4 out of 10 for time investment because obviously 80 hours is a lot of time to play a game. It didn't feel like I went out of my way for a lot of the achievements as well, which kind of brings the difficulty down to that 2 out of 10 range. But yeah, I honestly really enjoyed it. Might do a dedicated review video eventually for Starfield. I don't know. Let me know if you guys want to hear my thoughts on Starfield. I do have thoughts, but I would have to structure them a bit more than this rambling mess. But that's it for this video anyway. Make sure you subscribe and comment if you liked this particular video, because that's the best way of letting me know that you enjoyed it. And then I'll potentially do more, because I do enjoy getting all the achievements in video games. So this could be a fun little series that I do. If you want to check out some other videos I've done in the past, I did a review on Destiny 2 Lightfall at the start of the year, which pretty much killed all interest in Destiny for me. Looking back, was very generous with Lightfall at the launch, and that was mostly negative. So honestly, you can watch it, but my opinions have changed since then. And I also have another video up on screen right now. It was a retrospective video review kind of thing of a video game from my childhood called Hoyt's Casino Royale, which was a lot of fun, so you can go check that out as well. They'll both be clickable probably, or you can just go to my channel page and find other videos. I don't know. Do whatever you want. Go wild. Go check them out and share them around with people who like people who review video games and get achievements, because that's my kind of shtick, I guess. Anyway, appreciate you guys hanging out and watching. I'll see you next time.